Hey y'all, it's Kim. So this is called, I have to get the whole thing. The report of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence Committee study of the Central Intelligence Agency's detention and interrogation program. I have it pulled up. Somebody mentioned it as the Senate torture report. So after 9/11, a lot of the terrorists were put into CIA custody and things were not done properly. So anyway, we're going to start right here on page 50. So both Swigert and Dunbar had been psychologists with the U.S. Air Force Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape School, which exposes select U.S. military personnel to, among other things, coercive interrogation techniques that they might be subjected to if taken prisoner by countries that did not adhere to Geneva protections. Neither psychologist had experience as an interrogator, nor did either have specialized knowledge of Al Qaeda, a background in terrorism, or any relevant regional, cultural, or linguistic expertise. Swigert had reviewed research on learned helplessness, in which individuals might become passive and depressed in response to adverse or uncontrollable events. He theorized that inducing such a state could encourage a detainee to cooperate and provide information. The CIA renders Abu Zubaydah to a covert facility, obtains presidential approval without interagency deliberation. In late March 2002, Pakistani government authorities, working with CIA, captured Al Qaeda facilitator Abu Zubaydah in a raid during which Abu Zubaydah suffered bullet wounds. At that time, Abu Zubaydah was assessed by CIA officers in Alex Station, the office within the CIA with specific responsibility for Al Qaeda to possess detailed knowledge of Al Qaeda terrorist attack plans. However, as is described in greater detail in the full committee study, this assessment significantly overstated Abu Zubaydah's role in Al Qaeda and the information he was likely to possess. And there's a whole bunch of stuff there. Okay. On the day that Abu Zubaydah was captured, CIA attorneys discussed interpretations of the criminal prohibition on torture that might permit CIA officers to engage in certain interrogation activities. An attorney in CTC also sent an email with the subject line torture update to CTC legal, listing without commentary the restrictions on interrogation in the Geneva Conventions, the Convention Against Torture, and the criminal prohibition on torture. In late March 2002, anticipating its eventual custody of Abu Zubaydah, the CIA began considering options for his transfer to CIA custody and detention under the MON. I can't remember what that was. It was something the president sent down so they wouldn't have to go through a bunch of nonsense to get these people in custody. Anyway, the CIA rejected U.S. military custody and redacted in large part because of the lack of security and the fact that Abu Zubaydah would have to be declared to the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC. The CIA's concerns about custody at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, included the general lack of secrecy and the possible loss of control to U.S. military and or FBI. Rendition to country was rejected because of the perception that the results of that country's recent interrogations had been disappointing, as well as the intense interest in Abu Zubaydah from CIA leadership. As Alex Station wrote, the CIA needed to participate directly in the interrogation, not because we believe necessarily we can improve country performance, but because the reasons for the lack of progress will be transparent and reportable up the line. Over the course of the 4 days, the CIA settled on a detention site in country redacted because of that country's redacted and the lack of U.S. court jurisdiction. The only disadvantages identified by the CIA with detention in country were that it would not be USG control facility, and that diplomatic and policy decisions would be required. As of March 28th, 2002, CIA document acknowledged a proposal to render Abu Zubaydah to country and had not yet been broached with what country's officials were with that country's officials. The document also warned we can't guarantee security. If AZ's presence does become known, not clear what the impact could be or would be. The decision to detain Abu Zubaydah at a covert detention facility in country did not involve the input of the National Security Council, Principals Committee, the Department of State, the U.S. Ambassador, or the CIA Chief of Station in country. On March 29, 2002, an email from the Office of the Deputy DCI stated that we will have to acknowledge certain gaps in our planning and preparations, but this is the option the DDCI will lead with for POTUS consideration. That morning, the president approved moving forward with the plan to transfer Abu Zubaydah to country. During the same presidential daily brief, PDB session, Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld suggested exploring the option of putting Abu Zubaydah on a ship. However, CIA records do not indicate any further input from the principals, and that day the CIA station in country obtained the approval of country's redacted officials for the CIA detention site. The U.S. Deputy Chief of Mission in country, who was notified by the CIA station after country's leadership concurred in the absence of the ambassador, redacted shortly thereafter. Abu Zubaydah was rendered from Pakistan to country, redacted, where he was held at the first CIA detention site, referred to in the summary as Detention Site Green. CIA records indicate the country, redacted, was the last location of the CIA detention facility known to the president or the vice president, as subsequent locations were kept from the principals as a matter of White House policy. To avoid inadvertent disclosures of the location of the CIA detention sites and tensions with host country leadership, immediate attention foreshadows future challenges. The day after the rendition of Abu Zubaydah to Detention Site Green, the redacted, which was responsible for the security of the detention facility, linked its support for the CIA's detention site to a request for redacted support from the CIA. And all this is basically redacted, requested support, according to CIA cables and internal documents. Basically redacted, to replace, and then individuals responsible for supporting the CIA's detention facility. Those officials were replaced by different officials whom the CIA believed were not supportive of the CIA's detention site. Despite considerable effort by the CIA station in country to retain support for Detention Site Green from its new redacted partners, redacted called for the closing of the CIA detention facility within 3 weeks. Continued lobbying by the chief of station, however, eventually led country to reverse this decision, allowing Detention Site Green to remain operational. On April redacted 2002, the CIA station in country attempted to list the number of countries officers who, to the best of station's knowledge, had knowledge of the presence of Abu Zubaydah in a specific city and country. Okay, the list included 8 individuals, references to various personnel, redacted, and the staff of redacted, and included doubtless many others. By April redacted 2002, a media organization had learned that Abu Zubaydah was in country, prompting the CIA to explain to the media organization the security implications of revealing the information. The CIA station in country also expressed concerns that press inquiries would do nothing for our liaison and bilateral relations, possibly diminishing chances that the redacted of country will permit Abu Zubaydah to remain in country, or that he would accept other Abu Zubaydah like renderees in the future. In November 2002, after the CIA learned that a major U.S. newspaper knew that Abu Zubaydah was in country, senior CIA officials, as well as Vice President Cheney, urged the newspaper not to publish the information. While the U.S. newspaper did not reveal country as a location of Abu Zubaydah, the fact that it had the information combined with previous media interest resulted in the decision to close detention site Green. FBI officers are the first to question Abu Zubaydah, who states he intends to cooperate. Abu Zubaydah is taken to a hospital where he provides information the CIA later described as important and vital. After Abu Zubaydah was rendered to detention site Green on March 2002, he was questioned by special agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation who spoke Arabic and had experience interrogating members of Al Qaeda. Abu Zubaydah confirmed his identity to the FBI officers, informed the FBI officers he wanted to cooperate and provide background information on his activities. That evening, Abu Zubaydah's medical condition deteriorated rapidly and he required immediate hospitalization. Although Abu Zubaydah was largely unable to communicate because of the breathing tube, he continued to provide information to FBI and CIA officials at the hospital using an Arabic alphabet chart. According to records, the FBI officers remained at Abu Zubaydah's bedside throughout his ordeal and assisted in his medical care. When Abu Zubaydah's breathing tube was removed on April 8, 2002, Abu Zubaydah provided additional intelligence and reiterated his intention to cooperate. During an April 10th, 2002 debriefing session conducted in the hospital's intensive care unit, Abu Zubaydah revealed to the FBI officers that an individual named Mukhtar was the Al Qaeda's mastermind of the 9/11 attacks. Abu Zubaydah identified a picture of Mukhtar, I guess that's how you say it, provided by the FBI from the FBI's most wanted list. The picture was Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, or KSM, who had been indicted in 1996 for his role in Ramzi Youssef's terrorist plotting to detonate explosives on 12 United States flagged aircraft and destroy them mid-flight over the Pacific Ocean. Abu Zubaydah told the interrogators that Mukhtar was related to Ramzi Youssef, whom Abu Zubaydah said was in an American jail. Youssef had been convicted for the aforementioned terrorist plotting and was involved in the 1993 World Trade Center terrorist attack. Abu Zubaydah told the FBI officers that Mukhtar trained the 9/11 hijackers and also provided additional information on KSM's background, to include that KSM spoke fluent English, was approximately 34 years old, and was responsible for Al Qaeda operations outside of Afghanistan. Subsequent representations on the success of the CIA's detention and interrogation program consistently described Abu Zubaydah's identification of KSM's role in the September 11, 2001 attacks, as well as his identification of KSM's alias, Mukhtar, as being important and vital information. A review of CIA records found that this information was corroborative of information already in CIA databases. While Abu Zubaydah is hospitalized, CIA headquarters discusses the use of coercive interrogation techniques against Abu Zubaydah. While Abu Zubaydah was still hospitalized, personnel at CIA headquarters began discussing how CIA officers would interrogate Abu Zubaydah upon his return to detention site Green. The initial CIA interrogation proposal recommended that the interrogators engage with Abu Zubaydah to get him to provide information and suggest that a hard approach involving foreign government personnel be taken only as a last resort. At a meeting about this proposal, CTC legal recommended that a psychologist working on contract in the CIA's Office of Technical Services, Grayson Swigert, be used by CTC to provide real-time recommendations to overcome Abu Zubaydah's resistance to interrogation. Swigert had come to redacted attention through redacted, and who worked in OTS. Shortly thereafter, CIA headquarters formally proposed that Abu Zubaydah be kept in an all-white room that was lit 24 hours a day, that Abu Zubaydah not be provided any amenities, that his sleep be disrupted, that loud noise be constantly fed into his cell, and that only a small number of people interact with him. CIA records indicate that these proposals were based on the idea that such conditions would lead Abu Zubaydah to develop a sense of learned helplessness, and CIA headquarters then sent an interrogation team to country, including Swigert, whose initial role was to consult on the psychological aspects of the interrogation. DCI Tenet was provided an update on the Abu Zubaydah interrogations plan on April 12, 2002. The update stated that the CIA team was preparing for Abu Zubaydah's transfer back to detention site Green, and noted the CIA interrogation team intended to set the stage and increase control over Abu Zubaydah. The update stated our CIA lead interrogator will require Abu Zubaydah to reveal the most sensitive secret he knows we're seeking. If he dissembles or diverts the conversation, the interview will stop and resume at a later time. In accordance with this strategy and with concurrence from FBI headquarters, the two on-site FBI agents will no longer directly participate in the interview debriefing sessions. Let's see here. The FBI special agents questioning Abu Zubaydah at the hospital objected to the CIA's plan. In a measure to FBI or message to FBI headquarters, an FBI special agent wrote that the CIA's psychologist had acquired tremendous influence, and the message further stated AZ's health has improved over the last 2 days, and agency CIA is ready to move Abu Zubaydah out of the hospital and back to redacted, unredacted, in an elaborate plan to change AZ's environment. Agency or the CIA advised this day that they will be immediately changing tactics in all future AZ interviews by having only their to misspell it. Okay, so CIA officer interacts with AZ. There will be no FBI presence in interview room, and this change contradicts all conversations had to date. They believe AZ is offering throwaway information and holding back from providing threat information. It should be noted that we have obtained critical information regarding AZ thus far and have now got him speaking about threat information, albeit from his hospital bed and not an appropriate interview environment for full follow-up due to his health. Suddenly, the psychiatric team here wants AZ to only interact with their CIA officer, and the CIA sees this as being the best way to get the threat information. We offered several compromise solutions. All suggestions were immediately declined without further discussion. This, again, is quite odd, as all information obtained from AZ has come from FBI lead interviewers, and questioning. I've spent an incalculable amount of hours at Abu Zubaydah's bedside, assisting him with medical help, holding his hand and comforting him through various medical procedures, even assisting him in going to the bathroom. We've built tremendous rapport with AZ, and now that we are on the eve of regular interviews to get threat information, we've been written out of future interviews. A new CIA interrogation plan focuses on Abu Zubaydah's most important secret, FBI temporarily barred from questioning of Abu Zubaydah, and Abu Zubaydah then placed in isolation for 47 days without questioning. On April 13th, 2002, while Abu Zubaydah was still at the hospital, the CIA implemented the new interrogation program. This initial meeting was held with just one interrogator in the room and lasted 11 minutes. A cable stated that the CIA interrogator was coached by the psychological team. The CIA interrogator advised Abu Zubaydah that he had a most important secret that the interrogator needed to know. According to the cable, Abu Zubaydah amazingly nodded in agreement about the secret, but did not divulge any information. As the interrogation team expected, a cable further explained that Abu Zubaydah indicated that he understood that the key question was about impending future terrorist plans against the United States, and that the CIA officer told Abu Zubaydah to signal for him when he decides to discuss that one key item he knows he's keeping from the interrogator. The FBI officers provided a similar account to FBI headquarters, adding that we spent the rest of the day in the adjoining room with the CIA officer and one of the psychiatrists, was redacted, waiting for Abu Zubaydah to signal he was ready to talk. Abu Zubaydah apparently went to sleep. They did not approach Abu Zubaydah for the rest of the day. In their communications with FBI headquarters, the FBI officers wrote that they explained their rapport building approaches to the CIA interrogation team and tried to explain that we have used this approach before on other Al Qaeda members with much success. Al Awali, KKM, Jandal, Badawi, etc., we tried to politely suggest that valuable time was passing where we could attempt to solicit threat information. All right, I'm going to stop right here, and then we'll start back up on this section where it says on April 15th. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.